younger generation when it comes to that tightrope between loneliness and being alone. I want to return to the High Court, or rather to events at the High Court, where that case between Prince Harry and Tom, now Lord Watson, versus News Group newspapers was due to begin this morning. Emma Jones is a board director at Hacked Off, and also a former Sun journalist. She's been at the High Court this morning and joins me now. We should begin, Emma, with the question of what's happened.
Well, it's very interesting this morning. It's shifting sands at the moment. We went in this morning expecting everything to kick off at 10:30. There was a small adjournment and then came back, and the judge was asked whether there could be another adjournment.
By the defence or the prosecution?
Well, David Sherborne, it was an agreement between the two of them.
Okay.
So the judge said he was a little concerned about the timing, but he's agreed that if parties can assure him that it will be beneficial, that he'll do that. But he said that this is the last adjournment, so we can at least hope for something to happen at 2:00. Whether that means there's been a settlement or whether that means it's going to go ahead, we don't know. The skeleton hasn't been deployed yet, so everything's up in the air to a certain extent.
What do you mean, for the benefit of perhaps less informed people listening, what do you mean when you say the skeleton?
So that's the legal argument set out in court papers, which goes through the allegations against News Group. So that's things like the fact that they say Rebecca Brooks instigated and authorised a cover-up following the allegations which led to the Leveson inquiry. They're talking about email deletions. They're talking about widespread criminality at the newspaper, all of which should be investigated if this case goes ahead, which obviously has huge implications for Murdoch and the whole corporation.
Well, there's a few other things in that skeleton as well, including the buying off of potential whistleblowers and the current Sun editor, Victoria Newton, being accused of having written articles herself based on illegally accessed information, I think. That's
right. Harry's side claimed that she knew that the information she used to write stories was obtained through illegal means, and they claim there was a showbiz hub at the newspaper which regularly deployed private investigators, illegal methods in order to get information to inform their stories and inform the readers, and none of this has been tested before. This goes one step further than phone hacking.
And the allegations reach all the way to the top of the Murdoch empire. They don't stop at Rebecca Brooks.
Well, this is it, because, Rupert Murdoch himself could be implicated, because if it proves that he lied to a committee where he was tested about these sorts of things, we've got a huge problem for the corporation on our hands, because potentially we're talking about claims of perjury. We're talking about, could there be another police investigation? It's all up in the air, so you can understand why there's this last-minute scramble to settle. If that's what it is, we don't know for sure that that's what's going on, although it's hard to think of any other explanation for the facts as they appear to us. I speculated with your colleague, Dr. Evan Harris, yesterday that there is nothing to stop News Group from just adding zeros to the offers until the other side buckle. Well, quite right, and that's what they've been doing. They've settled so many of these claims for millions and millions of pounds so far, and they've managed to keep this from ever being aired in public. But, of course, they're dealing with a prince here, yes, where zeros mean a different thing entirely. And at the moment, I think it's about 4:30 in the morning in LA, where he's based. So
he's not come over for this. He's not in court today.
He's not in court today, but I believe he's involved with the negotiations, and I like to imagine he's sort of being woken up every 5 minutes to ask for his...
I doubt he's finding it very easy to nod off at the moment. I mean, even with young children, I think he's probably fully awake and fully alert. Is Tom Watson in court?
Tom Watson arrived just at the end of the second adjournment. Right. So, yes, he wasn't there this morning, but he looked, serious, grave-faced. Obviously, it's a huge momentous thing for him to be doing this as well, and to be taking this on. It can feel very isolating, especially going up against these people. And it's the complicity of politicians that the Murdoch Corporation have always relied on to keep this sort of thing out of court.
Well, nobody knows more about having the Murdoch press come after you than Tom Watson, or indeed Prince Harry, which explains why they're the last two men standing, really, in this sort of case. What do your instincts tell you, Emma? Do you think that
it really is too close to court? Yeah. I think this morning I was thinking, right, this is going to settle.
Really?
The legal teams look very happy chatting to each other, but it's still touch and go because, as I said before, it's a very unique position that Prince Harry's in. He's a different sort of character. So I think it really does boil down to whether or not they can find a form of words. It won't be about the money, a form of words that satisfy him and keep this thing from being aired. Murdoch is going to be doing his best to make sure that happens. I think Lachlan Murdoch's going to be at the end of the phone coming up with the most romantic turn of phrase he possibly can in order to placate this man.
Yeah, so, I mean, Harry committed to sunshine, to the full transparency, and the other side, for whatever reasons, are desperate for this case not to be examined in court. And I'm probably with you now, you've explained it so well, it'd be impossible to imagine the circumstances in which they could agree on a compromise.
Yes, but
agree they may. And of course, the people
are looking surprisgly relaxed. But okay. I suppose they're used to this sort of thing. I think the critical thing in this case is they're not going to want Newsgroup are not going to want this deliberate cover up and concealment of wrongdoing to be aired in court, which is being alleged.
Yes, exactly.
Alleged.
That.
I mean, they deny this, and they deny all of the things that are being alleged about them, and that's important to say. But the other side are saying that this cover-up included lying and intentionally misleading, amongst others, the Leveson inquiry, which of course was cancelled by Matt Hancock, and that's an enormous thing, and that means the court and the general public, So it's a fascinating case. It means that, we're implicating people at the highest level. James Murdoch, Rebecca Brooks, all these people who've become household names. Will Lewis, yes. I mean, that plays out in its own sort of separate subplot as a drama. It's
we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
We'll have to wait and see, and I can keep you updated. So
well, thank you. Final question. If a settlement is reached, and for people who don't know, and there's plenty of previous examples of this involving people like Hugh Grant and Sienna Miller and many others, it involves usually no admission of wrongdoing on the part of Newsgroup newspapers, even as they hand enormous cheques to the people who have previously accused them of wrongdoing. If this case settles, is it all over, or are there more cases to come?
Well, in terms of NGN, I think that would be all over. But I think what we might see here, rather than no admission of wrongdoing, is an apology and is a form of words, which would be fascinating to explore because, Harry isn't letting this go without a fight. For obvious reasons, we only have to think about what happened to his mother. It's that personal. So
that informs his attitude to much of the to the
absolutely. And I don't think he's not going to want to walk away from this without some sort of wording that implicates them, or at least offers the sort of apology that you can only make your own assumptions from.
And if we weren't on tenterhooks already, then we certainly are now. This building the anticipation as these two adjournments are examined. Emma Jones, many thanks indeed, a board director at Hacked Off, and herself a former Sun journalist, around the time I was the world's worst showbiz journalist, actually. 12:42 is the time. You are listening to James O'Brien on LBC. So some of the other, I'll run you through the allegations, actually, because it may be, in some ways, the last we ever hear of them if a settlement is reached. Before I do that, let me remind you of how this works, because it is utterly baffling. The Newsgroup newspapers make an offer to the person accusing them of wrongdoing. And that is an offer usually much bigger than anything they might expect in the event of their case being successfully sued. So they would win in court and be offered X £1,000s by the court. Or Newsgroup newspapers would be ordered to pay X £1,000 in compensation. Before it gets to court, and some of these deals have been struck on the steps of the court itself, not even metaphorically. Before it gets to court, Newsgroup newspapers can offer X squared. They can offer twice as much. Technically, they can offer as much as they want. They can offer 10 times as much as the plaintiff may reasonably expect to receive in court. So you would say to yourself, well, it depends what the plaintiff cares more about, having their day in court or having a big payout. But that's not true, you see, because if they win, like every time I explain this, there's a little voice in the back of my head going, are you sure you've got this right, mate? Because it sounds bonkers. But it is bonkers. I've had it explained to me by Hugh Grant, of all people, and he knows what he's talking about. If you win and the court orders News Group newspapers or Mirror Group newspapers or whoever it may be to pay you £50,000 in compensation, if you had previously turned down £51,000 or £100,000 or £5 million, if you had turned down any offer at all in excess of what the court decides you deserve, you, wait for it, having won the case, have to pay the legal fees of the other side. And no prizes for guessing that News Group newspapers do not employ the kind of lawyers whose business cards you can find in phone boxes or tucked behind the public telephones in custody suites at police stations. So if you win and you've turned down the original offer, you potentially lose your house or your livelihood or everything you've got. So that is why, in many ways, I thought Elton John might slip into this category, actually, given his simple wealth. But that is why it has come down to Prince Harry, and it's why this case is so interesting, this ongoing legal battle. And it could all be over at 2 o'clock, shortly after 2 o'clock today, or it could be the beginning of one of the most significant and intriguing trials involving the UK media that we have ever seen. It's now 12.
Emma Jones's compelling breakdown on LBC with James O'Brien revealed the intricate legal chess match unfolding at the High Court, where the explosive NGN trial threatens to unravel decades of tabloid machinations. Her insider perspective illuminated the precarious legal landscape, where Prince Harry's relentless pursuit of accountability stands in stark contrast to News Group newspapers' desperate attempts to suppress potentially damaging revelations. The trial's potential to expose systematic journalistic misconduct, including strategic email deletions, calculated whistleblower silencing, and potential corporate cover-ups, represents more than a mere legal proceeding. It symbolizes a watershed moment for press integrity in the United Kingdom, with the possibility of dramatically reshaping media accountability and ethical standards. The high-stakes battle media, misconduct, and the NGN trial. In a riveting breakdown on LBC, Emma Jones, a seasoned former Sun journalist and hacked-off board member, illuminated the precarious landscape of the News Group newspaper's NGN trial, where the judicial proceedings have been marked by what she dramatically termed shifting sands. Her nuanced analysis revealed the profound uncertainty surrounding the case, with repeated adjournments casting long shadows over its potential resolution. Jones's insider perspective suggested that each legal pause isn't merely procedural, but potentially strategic, reflecting the high-stakes nature of a trial that could potentially unravel decades of media misconduct and corporate obfuscation. The phone hacking scandal, a corporate conspiracy unveiled. The potential implications of the NGN trial represent a seismic moment in British media history, with the possibility of exposing a corporate cover-up that could fundamentally unravel the intricate web of corruption at News Group newspapers. At the heart of this explosive legal battle lies the potential to directly implicate top-tier executives like Rebecca Brooks and media mogul Rupert Murdoch in a systematic campaign of journalistic misconduct. The allegations go far beyond mere phone hacking, suggesting a coordinated effort to suppress evidence through strategic email deletions, calculated whistleblower buyouts, and a pervasive culture of criminality that reaches the uppermost echelons of Murdoch's media empire. With each passing day of testimony, the trial inches closer to potentially revealing the ugly truth behind years of unchecked media manipulation, threatening to dismantle the powerful protective networks that have long shielded corporate media giants from meaningful accountability. The explosive revelations media's high-stakes tabloid trial. The potential fallout from this legal battle cuts to the core of Murdoch's media empire, threatening to expose a labyrinth of corporate malfeasance that could fundamentally transform Britain's press landscape. With whistleblowers poised to reveal potentially damaging internal communications and systematic approaches to information suppression, the trial represents more than just a singular legal confrontation. It's a potential watershed moment for institutional accountability. The stakes are profoundly consequential. Should the full extent of alleged corporate misconduct be publicly unveiled, newsgroup newspapers could face unprecedented reputational and financial damage, potentially reaching directly into the upper echelons of Rupert Murdoch's global media network. This isn't merely about Prince Harry's individual lawsuit. It's a critical moment that could catalyze systemic reform, bringing long overdue transparency to an industry historically shielded from meaningful external scrutiny. The high-stakes battle Prince Harry versus newsgroup newspapers. Prince Harry's unwavering resolve burned bright in the hallowed chambers of the High Court, where his determination to expose the systemic corruption within tabloid journalism became unmistakably clear. With laser-like focus, he stood prepared to pierce through the veil of corporate secrecy, committed to bringing full transparency to a case that potentially revealed the dark underbelly of media manipulation. His singular objective was not merely personal vindication, but a broader mission to hold powerful media institutions accountable for their long-standing unethical practices, signaling a pivotal moment in the ongoing struggle against invasive and predatory journalism. The dark shadows of Fleet Street unmasking media manipulation. Newsgroup newspapers' panic was palpable, their desperation radiating through every legal maneuver designed to shield themselves from potential public exposure. With Prince Harry's relentless pursuit of accountability threatening to unravel their carefully constructed narrative, NGN's strategy became increasingly transparent: obstruct, deflect, and conceal at all costs. The organization's fervent attempts to avoid public scrutiny revealed a deep-seated fear that any comprehensive examination would not merely damage their reputation, but potentially uncover systemic misconduct that could implicate senior executives in a web of journalistic malfeasance. The high-stakes battle for media accountability. As the NGN trial unfolds, the possibility of justice emerges as a critical inflection point for Britain's deeply entrenched tabloid culture. The courtroom becomes a battleground where years of systemic media misconduct hang in precarious balance, with Prince Harry's relentless pursuit of transparency potentially exposing the intricate networks of power and manipulation that have long characterized tabloid journalism. This trial represents more than a personal vendetta. It symbolizes a transformative moment that could fundamentally reshape how media organizations operate, challenging the long-standing culture of invasive reporting and unchecked corporate power that has dominated British media landscapes for decades. The silenced truth: Prince Harry versus newsgroup newspapers. As the legal drama unfolds, the potential outcomes of this landmark trial hover like a thundercloud over Fleet Street. A high-profile settlement now looms as a tempting escape route for newsgroup newspapers, offering a quick resolution that would shield their most damaging secrets from public exposure. However, a full public trial represents a more explosive alternative, a judicial stage where every deleted email, every hushed whisper of corporate misconduct could be dramatically unveiled, potentially unraveling the intricate web of media manipulation that has long protected powerful figures within the Murdoch empire. The stakes are astronomically high. A courtroom revelation could not just vindicate Prince Harry's claims, but fundamentally challenge the toxic culture of British tabloid journalism, exposing systemic corruption that has operated in plain sight for decades. The hacked-off revelations media accountability on trial. The courtroom drama unfolding in the High Court represents far more than a singular legal battle. It symbolizes a potential watershed moment for press regulation and institutional accountability. Through Emma Jones's nuanced analysis, we glimpse the profound systemic challenges underlying British media culture, where corporate mechanisms have historically shielded powerful actors from genuine scrutiny. The potential exposure of email deletions, strategic whistleblower settlements, and potential executive-level misconduct suggests this trial could fundamentally recalibrate how media organizations perceive their ethical boundaries. Prince Harry's relentless pursuit of transparency stands as a critical test case, challenging the long-entrenched practices of tabloid journalism and potentially setting a precedent that could ripple through newsrooms nationwide, compelling a more rigorous examination of journalistic ethics and institutional integrity.